Oh, Captain, till we find where the treasure be. I see beyond the sea. Oh, Captain, till we go on a journey. Follow me, we shall go foreign.
So we're actually gonna watch something real quick. I got a couple things, both of them involving Diablo 4, which after the whole, how is it doing this? Diablo Immortal fiasco. Okay, there we go. It's kind of like, I don't know if I trust them. I don't know if I trust them. I mean, really, should we trust them? Because I kind of feel like the answer is no. So let me turn the game down. Alright. So, let's look at this. This is the full presentation from, good night? Good night. I love you, buddy. Sorry.
I'm sorry,
Sleep well. It's okay. Alright. So now let's look at this. Okay. Oh, yummy.
I speak now to those who heed a darker call.
Okay, I was gonna say, is that dude still alive? That's definitely a necromancer.
Those bold enough to cross the line of sin for deeper knowledge, who follow an unquenchable yearning.
Don't lick your fingers. Okay, good.
Blood and bone. To unlock the
Okay.
forbidden
Raising the dead there, I'm assuming.
Calling forth life from death.
Alright.
To truly embrace this power, you must take it into the world. You will be shunned.
See. Let me tell you, this is how I expect people to react to necromancers, and none of them act like this with the necromancer and Diablo Immortal.
Scorned. Marked as a living sacrifice to this profane knowledge.
Of course, when I was playing it on stream, I commented on how even some of the necromancer's comments were really weird, considering they're a necromancer. Like, seeing them surprised by the living dead when they've got two skeletons following them. That's weird. You shouldn't be surprised.
You will be a priest of Rathma. A necromancer. And you will not confront the darkness alone.
Alright.
Are the speakers of the dead. And the dead have no mercy.
Oh! The big guy back there behind her, right there. That's a big dude. the skeleton. Still, it's huge. Alright, the character selection screen looks pretty cool.
I'm very excited to announce our 5th and final class, the Necromancer, a commander of the undead who joins the other iconic classes.
I have to wonder, because in 3, you had to pay for the Necromancer. Is this just gonna immediately, like, is it gonna come out with the game, or are you gonna have to buy it separately?
Around the campfire in Diablo 4. These include the mighty barbarian, the elemental sorceress, the crafty rogue, and the powerful druid. And you'll want them because the demon Lilith, the daughter of hatred, has returned and spreading corruption and evil as she fights to reclaim our dark gothic world as her own. And it's up to you to stop her. Now, Diablo 4 is the culmination of the 25-year history of the franchise, building on top of the best of what's come before with some, you know, unique twists.
I mean, I'm all for unique twists. I'm hoping none of those unique twists involve, like, it essentially being an MMO, because that really messes with the feel of Immortal to me.
All its own. So let's dig a little deeper by watching, for the first time I might add, some Xbox Series X gameplay, while hearing from a few of the many people behind the game.
Diablo 4 is the next generation of action RPG, melding monster slaying and loot collecting with a fully realized open world.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's gory and unnerving. It's creepy.
Diablo 4 is all about player
Okay.
It takes all of
That was a lot of blood.
Diablo game
Kind of like that elevator scene in The Shining.
expands them with all of the new features that people really love and appreciate in modern games. Whoever you see yourself being, you can create in Diablo 4.
It's important to include.
Okay, so there's customization. I'm all for that.
Play the fantasy that I want to play.
Are they going to be gender locked or no? Curious about that.
It allows you to switch around your playstyle as well.
Everything feels very powerful and fun.
One of the really cool things about having an open world is your journey that you take throughout Diablo 4 is your own. There's no linear path that you have to follow.
It looks good.
We've got almost 150 dungeons in the game.
There's all kinds of surprises as you're exploring.
Strongholds
That's
are
a big
an
thing
enemy
over there.
territory that you need to reclaim.
You might have a space that begins as a hostile area, but after you've cleared it out,
The evil in this place has been cleansed.
it now becomes a friendly town.
Okay, that's interesting.
Sometimes it's a new town, sometimes it's a new dungeon. There's a whole bunch of rewards that you get, and you have a real impact on the world as a result.
I do like that. I like feeling like what I'm doing, it does affect the world.
No, you can't leave us here. They might come back any moment.
Local events are really cool little story segments that happen within the open world.
You'll just be running through
Okay.
the world, and then a local event will pop up, and you
That's a
can
snake.
choose
That's
to
interesting.
participate in it, or get a group together and just wail on these like giant world bosses.
These
Alright.
are events that take a lot of people, and you really have to work together.
That's somewhat concerning. Unless you're mostly in the world by yourself, and you can choose to bring people into the game with you to take down these world bosses. I don't know how I feel about this. Right here. Diablo has been a very desolate, lonely game, and I don't really I don't know how I feel about this. I know I don't really like the feel of Immortal so far. You know, the gameplay and all is fine. It's okay. It's somewhat stunted, or really stunted, because of the monetization. But so many people being around, and it interferes with the atmosphere.
Being able to see
And I don't want that
on your screen, collaborating, trying to take this big monster down, it's epic.
I don't want that for this, you know.
It's so easy to create a community.
In general.
It makes Diablo more of a social experience.
We've got fully enabled
Oh, I
crossplay.
don't like that.
If you have an Xbox and your buddy has a PC, you're going to be able to group up.
Or you could play couch co-op.
Crossplay is fine. That's cool. That way people can play on what they have and be able to still play with their friends. That I'm fine with. There's nothing wrong with that.
Two people on a couch can sit there and have a great experience.
We've created specific zones where players can engage in PvP.
If you go there, you can start swinging away at people. But you're also opening yourself up to being swung at.
That right there, that tells me that this is not gonna be primarily a single player experience. They have PvP zones? What? That... I'm fine with a certain amount of change. I know when Diablo 3 came out, a lot of people were annoyed with it being online all the time. Personally, I didn't care that much. I mean, it was weird, it didn't make a lot of sense. But overall, I didn't really care about that. And maybe that's just because with Steam and all sorts of other games, or programs, you're technically online all the time to play most things anymore. I don't think Diablo should feel like an MMO. I'm all for being able to bring people in to play with if you want to, but it should be a single player experience so that it still feels like that desolate, lonely world that is being taken over by the forces, you know, the forces of darkness. Like
If you're like really good, the game actually marks you as like a champion on the map. You basically become a loot pinata and everyone wants to chase you down.
The last story mission is
that
really
PvP really does not.
a whole different part of the journey.
Now you're set up for the end game, and that end game is rich with things to do that allow you to get more and more powerful.
Whether it's new items
Those
or
are
new
neat looking
dungeons
enemies
or
there.
new Paragon boards. Every single time you come back to play Diablo 4, there's going to be new stuff for you to experience.
And it's something that we're going to support for years to come.
I'm really excited for folks to get their hands on Diablo 4.
Just to see millions of people really enjoying the different options.
Through the campaign,
local events,
Couch co-op,
endgame,
PvP, it almost doesn't end.
And we are so close.
I just... I don't... Alright, let's watch this one. This is a gameplay trailer. Hopefully it's not just a repeat of what we saw there. Got my character before I get logged off. I don't necessarily have a problem with there being PvP options for people who want to do that, but actual zones, and obviously I'd have to look into this to find out, that there being PvP zones where you can go and just fight other players, unless it's something where you like phase into, tells me that this is not going to be a single player experience. I'm not really okay with that. Diablo 4. I'm really not. I'm already not enjoying that aspect of Diablo Immortal.
Diablo 4 is the next generation of...
Alright, this is what we just saw. What? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Haller just said the solitude in those games sets the vibe, and he's absolutely right. Yeah. Exactly. I don't It doesn't feel right when there's a bunch of people around you. Me off real quick and see if there is anything else recent that we didn't just see. And I guess they posted this hours ago. This is all from like the GameSpot channel, so well, look at this. This is Necromancer PvP
Hey folks,
and World Boss gameplay.
Good look at Diablo 4 during the Xbox showcase. However, we have a little bit of extra footage that we wanted to show off just to give you guys a better understanding of the gameplay. Specifically, we have footage of the Necromancer, one of the classes they just announced, as well as some PvP stuff and a world boss. Joining me is Eric Tay. He is the Blizzard Diablo expert, so we had to get him on here to kind of go over some of the cool stuff that he noticed.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake, and hello to all the fans. But it's really exciting to see more Diablo 4, of course. Seeing the Necromancer get revealed, not my personal favorite class of you know, the Diablo timeline, but you know, I know there's a lot of folks that enjoy the class, and we're getting to see kind of just some tried and true, right? Some corpse explode and kind of going through a dungeon with just a golem, which is interesting because, you know, the Necro's known so much for being a summoner class, and we're gonna, you know, see some variations of the Necromancer gameplay throughout.
I am curious what all the options for the Necromancer to summon are. I didn't know that was a golem. It would be interesting to see what variations are out there.
This kind of first clip, we'll kind of let this play through a little bit, and then I can get into some of the other stuff in a little bit.
I mean, the gameplay looks fine. It looks like what you expect. There has been some talk. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, or if it's just a leak that isn't confirmed yet, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least. But I have heard that there's going to be an in-game cash shop. So, yeah. Hold on, we get horses? We don't have to just run around on foot? That's weird. I don't have a problem with it. It's just weird.
Kind of like open world. Here, different class kind of build here. You have skeletal warriors, you have skeletal mages. What looks like maybe teeth from kind of Diablo 2 or a variation of bone spear, as well as some cursing going on. We don't get context in terms of like what exactly each of those skills are. The only thing that I saw through these clips that we got are just more about the different variations for the summoning, which is, you know, the primary core of a necromancer.
The hordes of skeletons.
I can kind of break some of those down. So
it is nice to see that.
The skeletal warriors that are kind of out there right now are probably either skirmishers or reapers. There's three variations: skirmishers, defenders, and reapers. The defender, which is the only tooltip that we got through this kind of gameplay.
Those are some big ass porcupines.
Is geared towards
I wonder what they're actually
having durable
called.
shield bearers with 15% more life. You'll see some defender skeletal warriors later in the later part of this clip, but you know, you can upgrade it one of two ways. One of the ways, you know, every 10 seconds your skeletal defenders will negate the next instance of direct damage they would take. If you decide to want to sacrifice it, which is one of the three options, you'll gain 15% non-physical resistance, but you'll no longer be able to raise skeletons. The skeletal mages, there's three options.
Oh, I mean, choices should matter, so there's nothing wrong with that. You just gotta
Shadow, cold,
decide
and
what you want to
bone.
do.
For example, with cold, as one of the upgrades, each time your cold mages damage enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence. If you want to sacrifice the cold skeletal mage, you'll deal 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, but again, no longer able to summon skeletal mages. And then with the golems, there's bone, blood, or iron.
I don't know if they hit that bear more than once, but just seeing it kind of roll back like that that's weird.
In this clip, you're seeing iron, so I'll just like break down.
I'm assuming that's
what
just because
iron
the
does.
animation
Iron
isn't
golem will
actually
slam the ground
completed.
and stun enemies, and every 5th iron golem attack causes a shockwave, dealing X% damage to primary enemy and enemy behind it. That's one of the 2 upgrades for the iron golem. And then if you decide to sacrifice
going down a roll.
the iron
I like
golem,
that.
You'll deal 30% increased critical strike damage, but you can't summon a golem anymore. I've never enjoyed the summoning aspect of necromancers, even though that's kind of what the class does. So it's kind of cool to have this passive ability of trading off your summons to make your necromancer stronger, essentially. But what we're seeing in this clip is you have the defender skeletal warriors that I mentioned, as well as the iron golem. There's legendaries that they're not picking up, presumably to, you know, keep some of that hidden, although I know a lot of folks probably want to see what those are.
I bet
and then
they
you
do.
have either a bone spear kind of like variant where it is hitting the wall and then bouncing back and kind of making 3 bone shards, or like smaller bone shards. Don't know if that's an upgrade for like bone spear or teeth. I'm not
So far, this isn't really what I want to see. I don't really want all the details on the class that they're speculating on, to be perfectly honest, because they don't really have all the details yet, and that's fine. I want to know more about like the PvP and the world boss gameplay. Is that going to be, you know, you're just grouping up with other people that you can see in the game, kind of like in Diablo Immortal? I mean, Diablo Immortal has an LFG function where you just click a button and people can join your group. I would be fine with that if I didn't also just have like dozens of people running around. Because that makes it easier if you don't know anybody else playing the game.
Not sure which one it is. That looks more like bone spear though. Or if it's kind of like a legendary effect that's like on one of the necromancer's items right now on this specific character.
My whole point there is I really just want to see what that's going to be like.
One thing to just note, a lot
But
of
we
that
probably don't
information,
really know much yet.
You gathered from a build that's not final, so like some of that could change, so don't take everything as gospel that we're saying. But anyway, back to the gameplay.
I mean, all of this is pretty much what you expect. It'd be nice if they had have done like timestamps so you could go to the parts you actually want to know about. It's not a long video, but like it just would have been nice, because I probably would have just skipped forward to it. I do like the way this cave looks though. Looks like you're actually running around on a frozen underground lake, which is cool. I appreciate it. I mean, it looks good. Alright. This is probably to the PvP part now.
We're getting some PvP here, which is something they're kind of bringing back, right? It was pretty big in D2, but was absent in D3.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember PvP in Diablo 2, but we played one. I'm pretty sure we had to. When did Diablo 2 come out? Let me find out. That'll tell me where I would have been living at the time. ...2001. I was absolutely living at home. That means we were using dial-up, so internet was not something we were doing. There were no online games, so yeah, that's why I wouldn't have known about the PvP in the second.
Yeah, like it's cool to see it come back. You know, there's definitely a lot of folks that enjoy PvP. So don't know how it'll interact with, you know, what end game or like mid game looks like, or what kind of rewards you even get from it. But you know, it does give that extra flavor of kind of builds and gear that you might want to use specifically for PvP. That might not be necessarily good for PvE, but you know, it's
yeah, well, that's fine for people that want to do
fighting
that.
Other players.
But I want to know how the and they probably don't know yet. I want to know what the PvP zones, like how those are gonna work. Also, this looks like the Zora Z. I mean, there's people. I enjoy PvP, don't get me wrong. And I wouldn't be against trying it out in Diablo. I just want to know if this means that there's gonna be like specific zones where you go in and, you know, it's kind of like an instanced area, and yeah, there are people there, but you wouldn't see those people outside of the PvP zones. If that's how it is, then fine, that's cool. I can work with that. Well, I mean, whatever. I have no choice in it regardless, but if I'm gonna play Diablo, I want it to feel lonely. Does look like the PvP gets pretty intense though. Like I said, I was never aware of PvP in 2.
Alright, so the last clip we got is a world boss. And this boss looks
Is there
pretty impressive.
They're really just recycling clips from what we already saw. Some of them may be extended a little bit, I'll allow that, but it really feels like we're really... And maybe this is just the only zones they have in the clips right now, the only stuff they're willing to show just yet. So, I don't know. Maybe this is from their own gameplay. I don't know. But it feels like we saw some of this before already.
But you were noticing some similarities to other D3 bosses, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. You'll see later on, like in the clip, when it kind of does some summons, where like it summons some treasure goblins, kind of eerily similar to Greed from Diablo 3, where you know you take your puzzle ring and put that in the cube so that you could get this kind of like secret level. But yeah, it's a pretty big spectacle, you know, having a big
I wouldn't
boss
really
out in
be
the
surprised
field
about some similarities
I tried
between
to count
bosses.
them. There's definitely at least 7 characters, but I think you can have up to 8. As I mentioned previously, there's the kind of the goblins running off. it saddens me that they don't try to chase them to kind of kill them to get the gear that presumably they would drop. But, you know, hey, we're
They
focusing
started
on
to. A couple
DPS
of them,
from
you could see
the
start
world boss
running
here.
off towards
And I
those
think the other
goblins.
one cool thing that I noticed is it kind of feels a little bit like Monster Hunter-y, where, you know, at the start of the fight, the boss isn't as beat up. It doesn't have as many scars, but kind of like over time, you kind of see a little bit more like cuts and a little bit more bleeding from the boss. But
I appreciate
yeah,
that sort of
just cool
thing.
to have an open area where you can kind of team up with other players and kind of tackle a big boss, you know, and get some hopefully good
Yeah,
gear.
I'm gonna have to look into this because I don't think anyone knows yet, and maybe they haven't said anything about it yet. But I need to know how this stuff is gonna work. And if there is a cash shop, I need to understand how that's gonna work too. Alright, this is about over.
And that's it on the Diablo 4 gameplay. Thank you all for watching, and if you want to check out more Diablo...
Alright. Yeah, that didn't really tell me anything else, so I somewhat regret watching it just because there wasn't really a lot of context. They talked a little bit about the skills they thought they were seeing and stuff, so they gave what information they could. I'm not upset with them, I'm just... It would be weird for me to be upset with them. I'm not upset with the video or anything. It was what it could be. It just, it wasn't what I was hoping it would be. That's not their fault.
I see beyond the sea. Oh, Captain, here we find where the treasure be. I